Certainly it was a physical football game, and attrition was a component of it. I guess a component of reviewing it is talk about some of that as we lead into this week. Calvin Anderson at tackle can be characterized as out again this week with his knee. Certainly we have several guys in the concussion protocol. We'll let that process run its course, and the medical experts will be center stage in terms of determining availability of those guys. Those guys are Pete, Malik Harrison, Darnell Washington. We have some other guys who got banged up during the course of play. Kendall Benton had an ankle. He was able to go back and finish. I'm sure that'll limit him some at the early portions of this week. James Pierre suffered a calf injury. He was able to finish, but it certainly could impact him at the early portions of this week. Ben Skoranek, Y.A. Black, and some others. Kyle Duggar certainly has got a chance this week to come back from his hand injury, and the rest are kind of bumps and bruises associated with play. Thankful that we have an additional 24 hours or so or plus this week, and that's why we adjusted our schedules in the way that we've done. Sometimes when we play on Monday, particularly at the early stages of team development, we'll do Friday twice and hit a lot of our situational football and really get solid on some of that stuff. We just deemed it appropriate to give ourselves another additional 24 hours of recovery this week. And so that's why we've taken the approach that we've taken this week. Thursday will be like a normal in-season Wednesday, and then we'll proceed on from there. And hopefully we'll get better clarity regarding some player availability. We'll give guys some additional time to rest and recuperate and be able to put their hand in the pile in terms of participating in the process of game readiness. And it's certainly important this time of year that we have that as the road gets narrow. Things that I thought were significant in terms of determining the outcome of the game on Sunday. I thought we were aggressive schematically on offense. And beyond that, though, we had the playmaking to go along with it. We were aggressive down the grass in some instances. I thought DK obviously was a central component of that, but so was guys like Calvin Austin. That was a big 3rd down and 3 down the grass in the third quarter for him, and really was a whisker away from going 75 or so. We were able to hit Jalen Warren out of the backfield versus some pressure on a 3rd down play, and he was able to run it in from about roughly 40 yards out. And so we got some yards in chunks. That certainly aids execution. It flips the field, and oftentimes chunk plays are the central component of scoring drives, and certainly it was for us. We were able to put 7 points on the board our first possession of the game. We were able to put 3 points, I think, on the board the first possession of the second half and kind of go on from there. From a defensive perspective, I thought our 3rd down play, particularly at the early stages of the game, sent the message and quelled the environment and allowed us to find our footing and play. Brandon Echols, I thought, was central to that. He broke up a pass in the red zone early in the game, made him settle for 3 on the first possession. He had a sack on the next 3rd down. On the subsequent drive, he had a 3rd down coverage play, I think, on the next down. Largely, we did what we needed to do on 3rd down in the first half of the game, and I thought it really set the stage for game on, if you will. We had to stop there at the end of the half, but we were penalized, and that was a 4-point penalty. They were able to go in and score a couple of plays later, and it also minimized our opportunity to maybe go back at them in a 2-minute drill prior to the half. And so certainly that was a costly penalty, but largely I thought 3rd down in the first half really kind of set the stage from a competition standpoint, from a defensive perspective. And then certainly in the second half, man, standing up on the short field was big, making them settle for 3 or getting off. And I just think this time of year, that's where the game is played for offenses and for defenses. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention special teams. I thought we had some timely playmaking in that space. Guys like Ben Skoranek and Carson Bruner, man, really were productive. We talk about activity and productivity and it being a difference. And those are 2 guys, man, that have been highly productive at whooping blocks and making tackles in that space with a high level of consistency, and it was needed as you battle for blades of grass in the field position game in games like that. Largely, though, I liked everyone's smile in the face of adversity. mentality. The environment was a tough and competitive one. Certainly, the Ravens are a worthy dance partner, and we were able to get the job done. Now, as we lean in on Monday Night Football, this week we're excited about Monday Night Football at Acrisure. Certainly, the Dolphins are as high as any team in the NFL. I'll start first with their defense. If you look at these guys statistically over the last 5 weeks, man, they're tops in football. I think they're giving up 13.2 points per game over that span. Third down conversion rate is like at 31%. They got 9 turnovers. I think that's second in football. And so there's some of the very critical statistics that measure how you're playing. They're checking those boxes, and that's why they've been the winners of 4 straight. When you keep the point total down, you take the ball away, you're good on third down. I think they're 22% TD rate in the red zone. And so they're stingy in that area as well. They're doing all the things you need to do to play really good defense. I love their linebacker tandem. Both highly productive instinct football players, volume tacklers. You better get hats on those guys if you want to make plays, not only in the running game, but just in the perimeter game, etc. Very active tandem. They leave them on the field quite a bit. They don't go to dime on third down and things of that nature like a lot of teams do this time of year. 20 and 25 are going to be in the middle of everything. I think they've been really solid in the secondary once they solidified some of their, divisional labor. I think Minka has been significant in that regard. He's been playing nickel for them. And they've got more depth, certainly, at safety than they do at corner. And Minka's versatility has been an asset to him. He's done an awesome job as a guy that plays closer to the line of scrimmage in the nickel position, a guy that blitzes. Certainly in base, he plays free safety and is a hub of communication and center fielder back there for him there. They got 2 really good, solid veteran corners who do a nice job of keeping things in front of them. They're very aware and instinct players. Raul's been around a long time. Jones has been around a long time now. They're ball guys. You see it. They've taken the ball away. They hunt the ball via the turnovers, and punching and collective is really impressive. Really impressive by Bradley Chubb's efforts. I think he missed a significant amount of time over the last year or two. He certainly appears to have found his footing. He's a challenge for us in terms of the edge rush, particularly with some instability that we have at tackle. It's going to be a challenge minimizing his impact on the game, but Chop is a designated rusher. Judon, they've got a quality edge group, and certainly they got some capable guys inside as well. On the offensive side of the ball, I can't say enough about A-Chain and their running game and how they've been playing behind that over the course of the last month or so when they've been on that win streak. Even last week with Wright, they were able to do similar things that they've done. They've really anchored down and established a personality there. The offensive line is running off the ball. They're certainly capable of tackling you vertically down the field. Still, Waddle is a dangerous guy. He's capable of going over the top. He's capable of run after. Waller, in particular in the red zone, is a force to be reckoned with. He's a big-bodied guy. He's good along the end line and so forth in that space, and he's certainly been an asset to him over the second half of the year since his acquisition and activation. Been a central component of what they do. They utilize a lot of people. They utilize a lot of personnel groups that work to keep you off balance that way. They got a veteran offensive staff, know a lot of guys on the offensive side of the ball, and so certainly we'll be utilizing the additional time to prepare ourselves, not only strategically, but also just getting really familiar with their personnel. It's been a number of years since we've seen these guys, and certainly I'll take the additional day to get familiar with that component of the matchup as well. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Okay, you didn't mention Derek Harmon. Is he ready to go? And 2, Clay Black played more assassinated defensive line. Where is he in his development?
Yes. Derek Harmon will be limited at the early portions of the week, and we'll let the amount of participation and how quickly it picks up and the quality of that participation as we go through the week to determine whether or not he's available. Certainly excited about an additional day as it pertains to him. YA is a guy that's just gotten better throughout the process, and sometimes as I often say one man's misfortune is another man's opportunity. We've certainly absorbed some attrition in the front with guys like Dean Lowry and Loudermilk going down on IR, Derek Harmon having 2 separate injuries. And so YA has been a guy, man, that's really taken advantage of the opportunities, not only in terms of his play, but just the general growth associated with gaining in-helmet snap experience. And so I think it's reasonable to expect him to continue to get better. He brings a good attitude. He is getting better from a production standpoint, and I just think last Sunday was a reflection of that.
The numbers you guys have against the run when Harmon's in versus whenever he's not in there are pretty, it's almost a 100-yard difference per game. What does Derek do so well that helps you guys defend the run?
He's a first rounder. that's why you draft first rounders. He's really talented. But you know, it's not a one-man game, certainly. I knew we were in for a tough run day last week when Malik went down, because that's also a component of his job description in terms of being a 9-on-7 run-stopping type linebacker for us. And so it's never a one-man discussion. Usually it's a multiple-man discussion, but certainly Harmon is an asset to us in that space.
You mentioned Mika. How do you feel like you guys have done in terms of replacing him, not only schematically, but also leadership-wise?
You know, I don't think we're devoid of leadership by any means. Certainly, we've gone through some adjustments schematically in terms of how we divide the labor up, but it's not exclusive to him. I think the loss of D. Elliott has been a major component of that as well. And guys like Miles Killebrew, it's just the attrition component that's associated with football. But at the same time, that's why we're really excited about having Jalen Ramsey, man, with his position flexibility, his ability to play outside corner and nickel and safety. We envision that being a big-time asset to us in terms of keeping people off balance and from a matchup standpoint. In recent weeks, and I guess you could say month and some change, we haven't been afforded that because of some of the other things I mentioned, and we're thankful that he's been rock solid for us at safety as well.
Mike, I know DK wasn't able to travel back with you. Do you have an update?
He's moving in the right direction. I don't think it's going to jeopardize his availability at all, but it certainly may jeopardize his availability at the early portions of the week from a practice standpoint. But thankfully, he's fine. I'm appreciative of our medical staff and how quickly they acted in making sure that he was safe and taking care of him post-game.
Like you opened by talking about some of the explosive plays you were able to create in the passing game. What do you need to do from either a game planning or execution standpoint to replicate some of that going forward?
You know, both. It's a mentality thing, particularly as the road gets narrow, but also the schematics are a component of it. We knew we would have opportunities. We've just been in those circumstances with Baltimore so many times over the years, and I'm in the process of getting familiar with Miami and what that might look like this week.
What was the impact you think that Thielen and MVS had on the receiving corps?
Just veteran guys, been there, done that guys. As I mentioned, as the road gets narrow in December, it's good to have those guys in the fold, guys that have experience in rising up in those moments. And certainly statistics might not bear it out, but I thought they were an asset to us, and it's reasonable to expect that to improve and increase as we continue.
Mike, your record as a head coach the week after losing by 15 plus, Michael has this in the notes every week, is really good. Why do you think you're 2-0 this year? Why do you think you guys have consistently been able to respond after a really rough patch?
I just think that's what this business is about. It's week to week. They're going to be good weeks, and you can't wear your hand out patting yourself on the back when you have those good weeks, and you certainly can't hate yourself when you have those negative weeks. And as a leader, I think it's important that I show that steady presence to provide that compass, if you will, for the collective.
Is that something that you've always done, dating back to your early days as a coach, or is that something that you kind of had to learn and adjust?
I just think I understand my role as a leader to be what my guys need me to be. And certainly when you're coming off a negative performance, they need stability and belief. You always say, what gives me confidence? And I tell you, life, ditto.
One thing that Johnny said yesterday, having played with Miami last year, he said they're particularly good at getting their fastbacks in space. From your standpoint, how do they do that? How do they manage that? And from your one-game defense standpoint, how do you combat that?
You know, they're really good with their personnel groups. They'll go pony backs or two running backs in the game. They got a lot of pre-snap shifts and motions. They personnel you a lot. And so with some of those pre-snap movements, they gain an advantage on the edge from time to time. And they really do a nice job schematically. But as you mentioned, those running backs are dynamic. They're all, you know, a couple of them are sub 4.4, and you certainly see that in video.
That was Highsmith, his ability to play the horizontal kind of football he did on the jet sweep and pop passes. The Ravens try to get in guys.
You know, that's why we like stand-up edge players. Their field of vision, their feel for the game is broader than DNs. And some of the things you mentioned, I think, is reflective of that. But I think that's not only characteristic of him, it's characteristic of all our edge guys, TJ, Herb, Jack Sawyer. That's the benefit to me of being a hybrid or a stand-up edge group.
Mike, going back to your wide receivers, what went into the decision to have Roman down versus Scotty being active?
You know, Scotty's a capable backup punt returner, and I thought that was the difference.
Mike, in terms of Sharon and the special teams play, I mean, does it take a unique individual to be a gunner? Because we saw some of those where he was getting destroyed out there, the time he fought through it. I mean, did you notice that from him in LA, or is that something you more developed here?
Certainly, I noticed it. He's a football player first and receiver second. He has an appetite and thirst for the competition the way that Darius Hayward-Bay did when he was here. And certainly, we're appreciative of not only his efforts, but also, as I mentioned, his production.
Does it say something that DK basically volunteered himself to then go in and fill in late? And as a coach, when you got a guy that's as valuable in other areas that your team is at, was there any wait, what's Ford doing out there?
No, I just think that's what time of year it is. That's what type of game it was. I'm thankful for his efforts, but he wasn't the only one. Jalen Warren, for example, returned kicks in the game. The roads getting narrow. It's AFC North football, etc. There are a lot of reasons why that type of attitude and approach was required.
DK said it felt different last week. The practices felt different. The details were different. What do you do as a coach to kind of get that out of them, by the way?
I'm sorry?
What do you do as a coach to kind of get that out of them, kind of at this point of the season?
I think we're always working to improve our process and thus our play. And certainly as you get into December, it's reasonable to expect your process to be cleaner, to continually elevate the floor in an effort to do so relative to your play.
You guys haven't been able to run the ball recently. What do you guys have to do better to get that going? And do you see any relatability from the deep passing game that was non-existent for a month and then clicked on this week?
You know, I'm comfortable with our approach to running the football. Certainly, we haven't gotten what we wanted from a production standpoint, but there's a lot of layers to that discussion. I thought particularly last week, the loss of Darnell in game was significant in that regard, and Pete at tackle. But that's just football. You adapt, you keep moving. Things are going to be less than ideal at times, particularly during this stage of the journey. I'm excited about putting together a good and complete plan in an effort to do so this week.
James Pierre is one of the league leaders in yards allowed since he's been in the starting lineup. Can you explain how a guy goes from on the couch at the beginning of last season to 6 years into his career, somehow one of the best cornerbacks in the league?
Man, it's him. Ask any of his teammates. He has unwavering belief in himself. He's an unbelievable professional. He's tough-minded. He's physically tough. He's willing to do anything and everything. He's earned everything that he's gotten in this business. As I mentioned in this setting before, you know, he was an undrafted college free agent in the COVID year. And so, man, you know, the tough road is not something that's new to him. I just think that he's played it up mentally, and I just think it's an asset to him and us.
Mike, you did the discount double check celebration after Aaron did. What's it like seeing him have that rushing touchdown, have that celebration in 2025? Did you know he still had wheels like that?
You know, I don't want to make more out of it than should be. It's just fun. We went down the field and scored on the opening drive in a hostile environment, and that's what it was about.
It looked like he had one of his best games of the season on Sunday. Was there any indication in practice leading up to that week, or what do you think maybe was the difference for him?
You know, as I mentioned before, you do business with a guy like Aaron for environments like that, and this time of year, He's a been there, done that guy. His resume reflects that. But beyond his resume, he's a competitor, and he's not running from it. He's running to it. And certainly that was a big game. And so I'm not surprised by big things from him.
Like, he hit a third and moderate, it was 3rd and 5 to Calvin Austin in the second half on the 31-yarder down the sideline. Were you hunting for any more of those in the fourth quarter that just didn't manifest on those 3 possessions that, like...
Well, I don't know that I'm going to tell you my intentions. We had to play that group again here in a couple of weeks.
Can you do the things that you like to do with Darnell Washington in the game with other people, or is he so unique you kind of have to scratch some of that stuff?
You certainly can, but there are weight classes in combat sports for a reason. And, you know, he's significantly bigger than others that you replace him with, and sometimes that's the difference.
Like, you guys are 0-4 in games that kick off at 4:25 or later. Is there any explanation to that, or how do you kind of maybe break that streak this week?
I make no excuse.
Mike, you've had Dylan Cook for 3 or 4 years. What did you think? How do you think he handled his opportunity? And what's the comfort level if he's your guy going forward?
You're excited for a guy when he gets an opportunity to play. He certainly has worked hard and has been professional. I loved his mindset when he went in. Happy for him. Oftentimes one man's misfortune is another man's opportunity, and he may get another opportunity this week. We'll see where the week leads us.
This is the 3rd time in the last 4 or 5 years that you guys have beaten the Ravens. They've outrushed you by 100 yards or more. What goes into a game plan to mitigate that vast of a difference in the ground game?
You know, they're built different than a lot of teams, and so the nature of our matchups are different. You know, you can almost substitute their rushing yards for passing yards and vice versa. The bottom line is you better win the turnover game. You better be good in the red area. You better make timely situational plays, and, you know, that's kind of the formula for playing those guys from our perspective.
Mike, you said you understand your role as a head coach when negative things happen. DK after the game said, Mike takes a lot of bullets for us. I'm curious, 19 years in, does taking those bullets get rearing at any point?
It's the job.
Like, one of those was at the Bills game, Dan's calling for your job. Did you feel like you were in the hot seat at all last week?
Man, I've been in the hot seat for 19 years.
Did you feel like you had something to prove to the fans at all?
I always feel like I got something to prove. Not necessarily to anyone in particular, but that's just the spirit in which I go about what I do professionally.
What do you expect from the fans Monday night?
Man, I expect them to show up, man. It's Monday Night Football in Acrisure. It's going to be a big game.
Mike, can you clarify a little bit about what happened with DK after the game? We all met with him in the media room, and then all reports came out last night.
He got hit in the abdomen or stomach in game. I think they gave him some basic over-the-counter remedies in game, like Pepto or something like that, and it got probably progressively worse after the game, and so I'm appreciative of our medical experts. We just exercised an abundance of precaution. We didn't want to get him in the air without having a complete understanding about what he was dealing with, and they did a good job of that.
Is there something to appreciate Joey's, battling back from 2 penalties he had early in the game, and then, helps make a breakup unlikely at the end of the game, and keeping that sort of resilience in important moments?
Joey's always trying to make plays, and he's certainly been a Pittsburgh kid, understands the nature of Steelers Ravens. He always wants to be a Raven killer. He's made some plays against those guys in the past. He had a big interception against Odell Beckham as a rookie. He tackled Lamar, I think, on a 2-point conversion a year ago. I think that's just how he's wired.
A lot of what you talked about, Miami's secondary certainly manifested on the stat sheet last week. They're going up against a 24-year-old quarterback, obviously difference from you guys and the veteran leadership that you have there. But like their aggressiveness, their break on the ball, that sort of thing, is that some of that is painting a picture of them throughout the whole season, or is that specific more to going up against New York last week?
I think that's reflective of who they are after they found their footing. Certainly they've absorbed some attrition, particularly at the cornerback position. Juju Brents and others have been injured, but I think they've settled into that veteran tandem. As I've mentioned, solidifying Mika as a nickel and utilizing their safety depth and getting stability there. What they've done over the last 5 weeks is kind of reflective of where they are, but I'll let them speak to that. I'm just, viewing it from an outsider's perspective.
I'm sure you like the three-step catch rule on Sunday, but in general, as a member of the committee, the competition committee, do you like that?
It's always been debatable. It seems like I've just learned to kind of move on. To be quite honest with you, I moved on from Jesse James, for example. I don't even know what year that was. There are going to be controversial calls in big games. I think I always focus my energy on making enough plays to minimize that in terms of determining the outcome of the game. That's why you won't hear me calling New York post-game for explanations and things of that nature. You guys asked me that maybe earlier in the year regarding something. It's not going to change the outcome. I just work to keep moving, and I just like to put together a comprehensive enough plan and make enough plays where the game's outcome doesn't hinge on one play or a couple of plays.
You have a pretty good feel for what a catch is and what a catch isn't.
I do.
But do you worry when you see the results on Sunday, though? I mean, when you have to make, because scoring plays one thing with the thing, but is it difficult to, how do you process information? Who do you rely on to say, hey, we should challenge this or not?
I just think that football is so bang bang and exciting. I think that's why our fans love it. It's a difficult game to play because of the speed. It's a difficult game to officiate. I think as a collective, we have some things in place that kind of, protect us all in an effort to get things right. Ruling that catch a touchdown makes it automatically reviewable where I don't have to decide to challenge, etc. And so there's a lot of things in place, interrelated variables relative to that discussion.
Going through 4 left tackles in 3 games, what kind of stress does that place on the offense, and how does having Isaac there, a veteran like that, next to that position help mitigate that?
I don't know that Isaac is blocking any of those edge guys, but certainly from a communication and coordination perspective, his presence is helpful. It's been a challenge, but that's why we work hard at making sure that we prepare the collective. It's next man up for us, and not only at that position, but others, you get a chance to prove that over the course of the journey. And certainly we've been challenged in that space in recent weeks. Can't say enough about those guys. I think we largely kept Aaron clean in game, and it's a credit to those guys.
Kim is about 70% snaps as an interior defensive lineman. At 36 years old, those things don't happen in the league, maybe ever. How do you explain that he's able to do that at this age?
He's an outlier. There are some outliers in every discussion. And guys like he and Calais Campbell, for example, are outliers.
Mike, you have a 42-year-old quarterback and a 44-year-old who hasn't played in 5 years come back and play. Philip Rivers.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Colts are supposed to work him up.
That's none of my business, man. I'm trying to be ready for the Dolphins.
When you talk about Cam, was it fair to say that the attrition, he's played more than you planned on or expected him to in terms of the snap share?
We do what we got to do. He certainly does what he has to do, man. He is a quality leader in every way. And I think certainly he understands our collective circumstance at times, and he's always willing to do whatever he needs to do to help us win.
With the left tackle situation being what it is, it's kind of forgotten the three linemen from the center out are second-year guys, and you kind of, have they been taking that second-year step collectively as you?
They have, and they have in a big way. To be honest with you, I don't even really think about it. But we invested a lot of draft capital in those guys, man. I'm not surprised that they're capable players and that they're merging and as individuals and a collective, and I think it's reasonable to expect that to continue.
Mike, you're probably deeper at linebacker than you have been in quite some time. How much did that come into play on Sunday, and how important is that going to be down the stretch?
It was certainly needed. I'm appreciative of Cole Holcomb's contributions, and as I mentioned, man, Malik has a certain job description for us, and when he went down, I thought Cole did a nice job. But depth is big, certainly at the linebacker position, and we're continually working, not only in terms of the acquisition of players, but the development of players as well. Oftentimes guys make plays in special teams before they make plays on defense, and one of the guys I mentioned as a special team highlight for us was young Carson Bruner, and so he's in the hopper as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So there you have it. That was Mike Tomlin with his press conference for He reflected back on the win against the Baltimore Ravens. There was a controversial call in that game where a touchdown pass was thrown by the Ravens. It was initially ruled a touchdown, but then it went up to the NFL official reviewer up in New York, and they called it not a touchdown, and the result of that was the Steelers ended up winning the game. I know I have a heavy content of ShedeurSanders content on my page, but through and through, if you don't know, you're about to know. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, currently reside down here in Atlanta, Georgia, where I retired from, and the Steelers, I bleed black and yellow through and through. So with week 14, the game wrapped up, and I'll start with the NFC real quick. I just want to give me about 2 more minutes. I'll wrap this live feed up. In the NFC, teams that were eliminated from the playoffs are the Saints, the Falcons, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Washington Commanders. In the AFC, teams eliminated last week were the Raiders, the Titans, the Cleveland Browns, and the Jets. So there you have right there, depending upon how their record ends up, you have the top 8 teams that's going to have the top 8 draft picks initially slated for next year's NFL draft. And then also, I plan on going back home. The NFL draft for next year is being held in Pittsburgh. So I've never been to an NFL draft. So it's one of the things on my bucket list, and I plan on experiencing it. I love Mike Tomlin. I love watching his interviews. He is the most direct, intellectual, in-depth response to the media's and the reporters' questions. He speaks his mind, and I just love watching his pre-game and post-game responses. I'm Randy Prentice, the host of Premier Sports Talk. Whenever you watch this particular feed, the hope is that if you can help this channel push the live feed out, if you can hit that thumbs up button, it doesn't cost a thing, it's free. If it's your first time tapping through the channel, if you like any of the content that I'm sharing and I have with you all, subscribe to the channel. Be a blessing. We're on the path to 4,000 subscribers. I looked at it this morning. We're at 3,500 and something subscribers. Might hit 4,000 subscribers before the clock goes into 1 January 2026. We'll see what happens here. But thank you all for blessing the channel, because without you supporting the channel, there could be no Premier Sports Talk. And I just want to tell you, thank you, and cannot show you enough appreciation. Drop your comments, good, bad, or indifferent. Let me know where you're from. Let me know who your favorite NFL team is. And I dropped a comment down in the chat. All can drop their chats. Who do you think is going to win the AFC North? And the better question is, who do you think is going to be in the Super Bowl? It's wide open this year. There's no dominating team just destroying everybody. It's looking like Patrick Mahomes may not even reach the playoffs this year. Kansas City Chiefs is on the bubble. They're in the hunt. I really don't feel like the Chiefs is going to make it. Travis Kelce, I know he's getting married to Taylor Swift. That's all over social media. I believe the date is June 13th of 2026 next year, if all goes well. You know, blessings upon them. I think those two are getting married, and I believe Travis Kelce is retiring. It's always a black and blue game, and every time the Pittsburgh and the Ravens play, we still got to play them one more time. So we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm Randy Prentice, the host of Premier Sports Talk. Thank you for blessing the channel. Again, hit that thumbs up button, drop your comments, and if you haven't subscribed, tap in and become a part and reserve a seat with the Premier Sports Talk. Y'all have a blessed day, and more importantly, be a blessing to another today.